In 1983, off the coast of Iceland, a 2-year-old orca was chased down, caught in a net, and lifted out of the ocean, away from his mother, away from his pod, for the last time. They called him Tilikum. Over the next 33 years, in a series of concrete tanks, he would become the most famous killer whale on Earth, and the most infamous, because over those 33 years, 3 people would die. And here's the strange part. When the world finally sat up and paid attention, after the 3rd one, the question people started asking wasn't the one you'd expect. It wasn't what is wrong with this animal. It was what did we do to him? Because Tilikum wasn't born a killer, we have a fairly good idea of what made him one. And it's the same thing this whole channel has been about, episode after episode. We took something enormous and intelligent and built for a life we can barely imagine. And we put it behind glass. This time, the glass held back an ocean. For about 50 years, the Killer Whale Show was the crown jewel of family entertainment, the splash zone, the trainer riding the whale's nose into the air. Millions of us went. I went. Almost none of us asked what it took to put that animal in that pool. So I'm going to tell you about 4 orcas. One who killed 3 people and changed everything. One who spent 50 years in the smallest orca tank in North America, while her mother swam free 3,000 miles away. One who was the star of a movie about setting a whale free, while he sat in a tank that was slowly killing him. And one who spent her last 12 years completely alone in a single pool, banging her head against the wall. And then, I'm going to tell you about the place being built right now that might finally be the alternative. This is Behind the Glass, episode 6. Right, so what actually is a killer whale? Because the name does it no favors. First thing, it's not a whale. The orca is the largest member of the dolphin family. A big male can reach 6 tons and around 8 meters long. It is the ocean's apex predator. There is nothing in any sea on Earth that hunts an orca. They've been documented taking down great white sharks. They are, pound for pound, one of the most successful predators that has ever existed. And if you've watched my other episodes, the next part is going to sound familiar, because orcas live almost exactly the way elephants do, just underwater. They live in families, matrilines, led by the oldest female, the grandmother, the matriarch. And in some orca populations, the children never leave their mother. Not the daughters, not even the sons. A male orca can be 40 years old, 6 tons, and still swimming beside his mom every single day of his life. These are some of the tightest family bonds on the planet. And here's the part that genuinely reframes everything. Orcas have culture. That's not me being poetic. It's the word scientists use. Different pods speak in different dialects. Actual distinct sets of calls, passed down through generations, that researchers can use to tell pods apart the way you'd tell apart 2 languages. Different families have different diets, different hunting techniques. Some hunt seals, some only eat fish, some work together to wash seals off ice floes. And they teach these methods to their young. Knowledge handed down. That's culture. Their brains are huge, and they have a region, the Paralympic region, tied to emotion and social bonding, that is more elaborately developed than our own. Some scientists who study this think orcas may experience social connection and social loss even more intensely than humans do. Sit with that one. We might have built tanks for an animal that feels loneliness more sharply than we do. In the wild, an orca swims up to 100 miles a day, dives hundreds of feet. The females can live 80-90 years. There was one southern resident, known as Granny, estimated to be pushing 100 years old. And then there's the fin. You've seen it, even if you've never noticed it. In nearly every captive male orca, that tall dorsal fin flops over to one side, collapsed. SeaWorld used to say it was natural. In the wild, it happens to about 1 orca in 100. In captivity, it's almost all of them. It's the first visible sign, before you know a single other fact, that something about this life is wrong. The ocean holds the fin up. A concrete pool doesn't. So that's the animal. Now let me tell you how we got them into the tanks. In the 1960s and 70s, the marine park industry was exploding and it needed orcas. So they went and took them. From the wild, from those families I just described. One of the most infamous happened in Penn Cove, off Washington State, in 1970. They used boats, they used planes, they used explosives in the water to herd the whales. They drove an entire population of orcas, the southern residents, into the shallows of the cove, and then they went after the youngest ones, the calves. Because calves are small enough to transport and cute enough to sell. The witnesses described something that sounds almost human. The mothers didn't flee. They stayed at the edge of the nets, where their calves were being taken. And they screamed. That's the word the people there used. The adults circled and called and would not leave their babies. Some orcas died in the nets during these captures, and the people doing it, in some cases, weighted the bodies down with stones so they'd sink and not be found. The calves that survived were shipped off to marine parks around the world. Most of them died within a few years. The southern resident population, that exact community of orcas, never recovered. Take a whole generation of children out of a culture that passes everything down through family. And you don't just lose the individuals. You lose what they would have known. That population is endangered to this day, and the captures are a big part of why. One of those Pen Cove calves, taken in 1970, was a little female, around 4 years old. She had already spent those 4 years learning her pod's calls, learning to hunt, swimming 100 miles a day beside her mother. They would name her Lolita. Hold on to her. We're coming back to her, and it's going to hurt. Because here's the thing about taking an animal like this into captivity. It's not like a tiger in a cage, as awful as that is. With an orca, you're not just confining a body. You're cutting a mind out of a family, out of a language, out of a culture, and dropping it alone into a silent concrete box. We did that thousands of times, and then we taught them to wave at us for fish. So, let's go back to Tilikum, caught off Iceland in 1983, around 2 years old. After a holding facility in Iceland, he ended up at a place called Sealand of the Pacific, near Victoria, Canada. And Sealand is where the damage really started. Because at night, Tilikum and 2 female orcas were kept in a tiny metal-sided pen, a medical module about the size of a large room. They were locked in there for 14 hours or more, every single night. And the 2 females bullied him relentlessly, raked him with their teeth. And in that tiny box, there was nowhere for him to go, night after night after night. Now, remember what I told you. This is an animal built to swim 100 miles a day, in the open ocean, surrounded by family that protects him. Instead, a steel box in the dark, with no escape, being attacked for years. In 1991, a trainer at Sealand slipped and fell into the orca's pool. Tilikum was one of 3 orcas involved. She did not survive. It was the first death. Sealand closed soon after, and Tilikum, this large, valuable breeding-age male, was sold to SeaWorld Orlando in 1992. At SeaWorld, 2 things happened at once. He became a star, performing in the shows, and he became the most important breeding animal they had. He was huge, and his genetics spread through the whole captive population. Over his life, Tilikum sired 14 calves. A huge fraction of SeaWorld's orcas are his children and grandchildren. In 1999, a man stayed in the park after closing and got into Tilikum's pool overnight. He was found dead the next morning. That was the second death. And then came February 24th, 2010. After a show, a highly experienced trainer named Dawn Branchot was working closely with Tilikum at the edge of the pool. He took her into the water, and she died. I'm going to leave it there, because the details don't honor her, and they don't help you understand anything. What matters is this. Dawn Branchot loved these animals. She was one of the best in the world at what she did. This is not a story about a careless person or an evil animal. It's a story about a situation that should never have existed. A 6-ton predator shaped by decades of confinement and a human being in the water with him. Her death became the center of a 2013 documentary called Blackfish. And Blackfish did something this channel has talked about before. Remember in the gorilla episode and the tiger episode, how the spectacle always seemed to bury the real question. The Harambe meme, the Tiger King circus. Everyone looked at the entertainment and missed the animal. Blackfish was the rare time it worked the other way. The film took a story everyone thought they understood. Killer whale kills trainer, and made millions of people ask the deeper question instead. What kind of life produces that? What did 30 years in a tank do to him? The effect was enormous. SeaWorld's attendance fell. Its stock collapsed. Its reputation never recovered. We'll come back to what that forced them to do, because it actually matters, and it's actually hopeful. Tilikum spent his last years mostly out of the public eye. His health declined. He died on January 6, 2017, of a bacterial lung infection. He was around 36. In the wild, he might have lived past 50 beside his mother, speaking his pod's dialect, in the cold Icelandic water he was born in. Instead, he died famous, in Florida, in a tank. Having killed 3 people, and having taught millions of us, finally, to ask why. I told you we'd come back to Lolita. Here it is. After she was taken at Penn Cove in 1970, Lolita was sent to the Miami Seaquarium, and she stayed there for over 50 years in what is the smallest orca tank in North America. For more than 4 decades of that, she was completely alone. No other orca performing shows in a pool you could throw a stone across. And here's the detail I can't get out of my head. Lolita was a southern resident. Scientists know that community so well they can identify individuals. And they believe Lolita's mother, the mother she was torn from in 1970, was still alive, still out there. The matriarch of the pod, in her 90s, swimming the same waters off Washington where her daughter had been taken half a century before. For 53 years, a mother and daughter, 3,000 miles apart, one in the open Pacific, one in a concrete bowl in Miami. People fought for Lolita for decades, and finally, in 2023, it came together. A real funded plan to fly her home and retire her to a sea pen in her native waters. Not fully wild, but cold ocean, her home, her family's calls in the water around her. She died on August 18, 2023, months before the plane, of kidney failure and pneumonia after more than 50 years in that tank. She was almost free. She ran out of time. If you've watched the tiger episode, you've felt this exact heartbreak before. Tony, who died at the truck stop. India, who got 2 years, the almost. Lolita is the orca's version of the almost. And then there's Kiska, captured off Iceland in 1979, around age 3. And for a while, she actually shared a tank with another famous orca we'll talk about in a minute. She ended up at Marineland in Niagara Falls, Canada. Kiska had 5 calves. Not one of them survived past the age of 6. Every single one. And then, one by one, the other orcas around her left or died, until in her final 12 years, Kiska was completely alone. One orca, one barren tank, no others of her kind at all for over a decade. People started calling her the world's loneliest orca. And in 2021, a video got out. It showed Kiska alone in her pool, repeatedly banging her head against the wall of the tank. Over and over, millions of people saw it. You could not watch it and tell yourself she was fine. Kiska died in March 2023 of a bacterial infection. She was the last captive orca in Canada. When she died, orca captivity in that entire country ended with her. She died just a little too early, because by then, for the first time, there was somewhere else she might have gone. Okay, let me give you the hope, because this is the rare episode where it's real, and it's big, and it's happening right now. It starts with the orca who shared that tank with Kiska. His name was Keiko. In 1993, a film came out called Free Willy. You probably know it. A boy befriends a captive orca and, at the end, helps set him free. It was a global phenomenon. And here's the gut punch that powered everything after. The orca who played Willy, Keiko, was, at that very moment, living in a cramped, too warm tank in an amusement park in Mexico City. Sick, underweight. The whale who starred in a movie about freeing a whale was himself a captive in poor health. When the public found that out, the outcry was enormous, and it funded something nobody had ever done. They rehabilitated Keiko. They flew him to a sea pen in Iceland, the waters he came from. And in 2002, they opened the gate. Keiko became the only captive orca ever released back into the open ocean. Now, I promised you on this channel I'd always be honest, even when honest is complicated. So here's the honest version. Keiko never fully rejoined a wild pod. He swam all the way to Norway, and he kept seeking out human beings, letting children pet him, looking for the contact he'd known his whole life. He died in 2003 of pneumonia. People still argue about whether Keiko's release was a success or a failure. And the truthful answer is both. He didn't become a wild whale again. 30 years of captivity doesn't just wash off. It's the same brutal lesson as Ivan the gorilla, who reached for grass after 27 years and still never quite became a gorilla again. You can open the gate, you can't give back the life that was taken. But Keiko spent his final years in cold ocean water, swimming miles, diving deep, feeling the tide. Compared to a tank in Mexico City, that wasn't a failure, that was mercy. And the people who learned how to do it, who figured out how you move and rehabilitate a captive orca, are the exact people building what comes next. Because here's where it lands. After Blackfish, after the collapse, SeaWorld did something real, and they deserve to be told fairly. In 2016, they announced they were ending their orca breeding program, completely, which means the orcas in their care right now are the last generation. No more will be born into it. They ended the theatrical shows. That's not nothing. That's an industry that defined American family entertainment for 50 years, conceding the argument. Canada went further and banned cetacean captivity outright in 2019, the law nicknamed the Free Willy Bill. And right now, off the coast of Nova Scotia, a group called the Whale Sanctuary Project is building the thing that's never existed, the world's first true seaside sanctuary for captive whales. 100 acres of real, netted-off ocean cove, cold water, a natural seabed, tides, fish, but with humans still feeding and caring for the animals who can't fully fend for themselves. A retirement home in the ocean for whales who can never be fully wild but should never have been in a tank. The man leading it helped run Keiko's release. The thread connects all the way back. And as I'm recording this, it's being tested for real. Marineland, where Kiska died, has shut down. And around 30 beluga whales there need somewhere to go. There's an offer on the table to bring them to that Nova Scotia sanctuary. There's an Inuit-led plan to rewild some of them in Hudson Bay. It's being fought over right now as you watch this. The story isn't finished. For once, we're watching the alternative get built in real time. 2 things, if you care about this. 1, don't buy a ticket to a show. Anywhere that has an orca or a dolphin doing tricks for a crowd, that ticket is the whole reason the tank exists. I know the show is dazzling, that's the point, but every person who stops going is a small part of why SeaWorld ended its breeding program, and why these can be the last generation. They change for empty seats, nothing else. 2, the Whale Sanctuary Project, the people building that ocean sanctuary in Nova Scotia, are doing the actual work of figuring out what comes after the tank. They're linked below. So is the Keiko legacy that taught them how. In 1983, we pulled a 2-year-old orca out of the ocean off Iceland, and over 33 years, we turned him into something that killed 3 people. And then, we acted surprised. His name was Tilikum, and somewhere off Washington State, an old orca kept swimming the waters her daughter was stolen from, and never stopped. We told ourselves for 50 years that the whale in the tank was happy, that the splash and the music and the wave of a fin meant everything was fine. The collapsed fin was telling us the truth the whole time. We just had to decide to look. There are always more lives behind the glass, and I'll keep bringing them into the light until the glass is empty or until something finally changes. Thank you for being here, and I'll see you in the next one.